Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I am testing out a vehicle that I very much consider to be one of the underdogs in the compact luxury sedan segment. Right beside me is the all-new 2020 Volvo S60. Now, if you guys remember, this is part of the third generation S60. Volvo just introduced it last year, and for 2020, they've made very small changes to it. As you can see, this one here is the T6 inscription, so it's kind of right in the middle of the engine specs. And I also like this particular color combination. This is the denim blue exterior with the light birch beige interior option. Now, the S60 definitely doesn't sell in the kind of numbers as the XC60 or the XC40 crossover, but if you guys are looking for a compact luxury sedan, how does the 2020 Volvo S60 continue to stack up? That's what we're here to find out. Now, as you can see, the S60 behind me in the inscription trim is considered more of the luxury-oriented model. The last ones that I've tested were the R design, which were the sport option, which had the paddle shifters that had a sport-tuned suspension. This is the one for the traditional Volvo shopper who wants that really comfortable ride quality, the massaging seats. This is one of the few vehicles in the compact segment that offers massaging seats. And I have to say, Volvo last year sold around 17,000 of these here in America, which is not great. I mean, everybody buys their crossovers or crossovers in generals, but this is still one attractive compact sedan. So let's take a look at the exterior and see what the inscription model offers you. As you can see, painted in this denim blue exterior color, the inscription model has a very understated, classy ambience to it. It has very much that traditional Swedish look that Volvo introduced, of course, about 4 years ago. This is part of their scalable product architecture lineup, and the S60 was one of the last vehicles to get this new architecture. You can see for the inscription model, you get the company's full LED headlights as standard. These are the Thor's Hammer LED daytime running light, of course, with an LED turn signal, LED low and high beams, and you also get LED fog lights along with some chrome along the front fascia. The grille, this is the newer grille that they also just refreshed, of course, on the XC90, and you can see there's the newer Volvo emblem there, which is slightly sleeker looking. And overall, I think the S60 is still one attractive looking compact sedan, although you can pretty much tell this vehicle has more of a front drive proportions. It's a front drive architecture. Remember, that's what distinguishes this from a lot of the rear drive competitors, although with this generation, the third generation, Volvo has done a really great job with the overall packaging. Now you can see my tester has an optional 19-inch wheel for $800. This is riding on 235 wide tires. The standard wheel is an 18-inch wheel. I would like to see Volvo offer red colored brake calipers, which you can get the yellow colored ones with the Brembo brakes on the Polestar engineering models, but they do look a little bit more plain Jane on the regular versions. I would like to see that even offered on the R design. Now this thing at 187 inches long overall and 113-inch long wheelbase, this is the same size as something like a Tesla Model 3 or an Audi A4. There is no S40 subcompact sedan here offered in America. Volvo only offers this as their smallest, least expensive sedan. Keep that in mind. The rear of the vehicle, you can see, has that very much Volvo look to it. I think it's a better looking car versus the S90 from certain angles. I like the dual integrated exhaust tips. You can see the T6 model is the one that comes standard with all-wheel drive. It's got that turbocharged and supercharged engine, which is also part of the problem with this new generation of Volvo vehicles. Now, in terms of the trunk capacity, Volvo says you get around 14 cubic feet of space, which is fine, but keep in mind you can also get the V60 wagon, which will significantly double, maybe even triple that space when you have the seats folded. So obviously the exterior didn't get any changes for 2020, but let's hop into the interior because I want to remind you guys why you're probably considering a Volvo, because they still have one of the nicest cabins in the industry, and Volvo has an ace up their sleeve, and that's the fact that this inscription model has massaging seats in the front. I mean, you can't even find that in the rest of the competition, so if you're looking for massaging seats in this segment, the S60 is the only game in town. Now, stepping inside and looking at this cabin, you can see I love the interior color combination of my tester with the light birch, beige, whitish interior. It's just a very warm, welcoming, inviting place to spend time. I love the two-tone on the steering wheel. I love the two-tone on the door panels. I love the metal speaker covers, of course, for the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which sounds absolutely incredible. It's worth the $3 grand if you guys want a really good sound system. When I get inside and shut the door, It still has a nice solid thunk. Remember, this is the scalable product architecture that we saw about 4 years ago. Now, starting the vehicle up, Volvo does a little knob here that you just turn over to the right. And because this is not the plug-in hybrid, it has a traditional starter noise. That 12.3-inch digital display became standard for 2020. And then, of course, you have the 9-inch Volvo Sensus Connect head unit. Here is the key fob for the vehicle. It's not actually matching the interior color specification that other Volvos had, like the 90, but it's a really nice leather-wrapped key. It still looks good. It still feels really expensive and high quality. This was one of the unique features of the Volvos when they first came out with their all-new generation of vehicle. Now, I've shown you guys this interior in my other reviews very thoroughly, so I'm just going to briefly touch base on the Inscription model. You can see it's got the tailored real leather stitching on the dash. That is included now on the R Design models for 2020. It's just a soft touch injection molded plastic down here. You have the lime decor real wood grain, which for $200 I would highly recommend. The door panels are also soft touch, but not leather stitched. It is leather stitched down here. Windows are one-touch automatic for all four, of course, which is really nice. The steering wheel is just a manual tilt and telescoping, but it does offer a good amount of adjustability and range. Volvo does not do a power tilt telescoping steering column, which is a little bit confusing. The Sensus Connect head unit you can see here is starting to look a little bit small. I don't love the way the dash design looks in these smaller vehicles with these massive vents, which are practically the same size as the screen. I think Volvo should definitely start considering expanding the screen to at least a 12-inch screen for their next generation of vehicle. You can see it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Volvo was one of the first to allow you to kind of use the CarPlay where it didn't take up the entire screen, where I could still, for example, pull up the factory GPS, which you can see there looks pretty good. And you can also expand this to the entire screen if you'd like. Which is definitely nice, only with the factory GPS. Putting the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's a nice backup camera. Volvo does one of the best ones. With trajectory, it has active park assist. That's a $200 upcharge, and you've got that full panoramic 360 top-down view, which looks great. So Volvo still is killing it there. And in terms of the infotainment system, they've definitely improved Sensus Connect over the years. It still takes a good amount of time to actually boot up, which it can be a little bit slow. You can see there's a lot of your different adjustments there. You can also scroll this down and go into your actual settings here. You can change a lot of things. You can update the interior lighting in here if you'd like. You can adjust your sound, of course, for the audio system, which sounds great. So this system here has a little bit of a learning curve, and I don't like how if I want to use the cooled seat, I have to go into the screen here or the heated steering wheel, and you have to go into that and do that, which does take a little bit of time. It's not quite as fast as when I just have a traditional button. The seats themselves, these are again the massaging seats. They adjust in like 14 different ways. They're comfortable, supportive, they're heated and cooled, which is very nice. Volvos are known for offering lovely seats. If I push the little lumbar button here on the seat back, you can see this is how you access the massage. I don't like how I have to do this every time. I wish Volvo would just make it so I could just push one button and have a pre-select on how I want the massage to be in the interior. So that's something that they could, again, work on. You can see there's a big volume knob here. Tuning buttons, of course. They could put more physical buttons here. You have a traditional shifter here for the 8-speed automatic. Your drive mode selector is here. The S60 offers an eco, comfort, individual, and a dynamic mode. Open these up, you can see cup holders, a little bit of storage, which is great, electronic parking brake, and then small amount of storage here in the center console. This is a padded armrest over here, which is pretty nice. The glove compartment, you can see it's pretty big. It's damped and lined with felt. And then above me, this panoramic sunroof is included on this trim, which is definitely nice. It doesn't go entirely into the back seat, which I wish it did, but it does let in a lot of light. So overall, the cabin is still very impressive with the S60. And I think a lot of buyers looking for this specific level of luxury and just uniqueness are gonna find plenty to like. You just have to kind of get past this screen, which still has a little bit of a learning curve, which still is a little bit slow and laggy compared to competitors. Now, one of the advantages about the S60 is the fact that this is slightly bigger than the competition, which means you have slightly more backseat legroom. In fact, Volvo says you have around 36 inches of legroom back there, which is a couple more versus some of the direct rivals. It's actually a pretty spacious backseat area, so when I get inside back here, you can see it offers pretty good amount of space. Now, I'm 5'7", so I'm not the tallest person, but I have a good amount of headroom over here. When I get inside, you can see there's a good amount of foot space underneath here, and there is a fairly large hump here for the all-wheel drive system, so that it does intrude on your rear seat or middle passenger. Now shutting the door, you can see the door panels are also soft touch with more of those metal speaker coverings. You have vents back here. You have 4-zone climate control, which is of course nice. You have 3-level heated seats back here, but just a power outlet here. There's no USB charging ports, which would have been nice. You do get 2 map pockets, and then you have this nice armrest here that folds down, and then Volvo gives you a little bit more covered storage, and of course cup holders in here. So overall the back seat is nice. It definitely gives you a little bit more room versus some of the competitors. Now under the hood of the newest generation of Volvo vehicles, this is where probably the biggest problem, at least for enthusiasts, lies, because remember, Volvos in the past had a 5-cylinder turbo or a 6-cylinder turbo, and they even offered a V8 for a short amount of time. Never on this vehicle, but that's all been replaced by a trio of 4-cylinder engines. Starting at the base T5, you get a 2-liter turbo. This is the mid-trim T6, which no longer means it has an inline 6. It has a 2-liter turbo with also a supercharger, so it's twin charge. And then of course there's the T8, which offers the turbo supercharged hybridized version, which actually got a bigger battery to just under 12 kilowatt hours for 2020, which also slightly improved the range of this thing. But obviously this is the T6 model, which I consider to be the Goldilocks engine. It makes 316 horsepower, so about 14 more horsepower versus the previous generation, and around 295 pound-feet of torque. These numbers put it right in the line with a lot of the competitors, although it does make less power versus like an Audi S4, a BMW M340i, and of course Mercedes C43. Volvo will say go for the T8 model, which is a plug-in hybrid, which offers 400 horsepower, or 415 if you guys go for the Polestar engineered model. The problem with this engine is it just doesn't have any kind of character to the sound and the driving feel. Sure, it offers plenty of low-end torque because of the turbo and supercharger. It has a smooth 8-speed ACEN automatic with the standard all-wheel drive system. Going for the T5, I did complain the T5 it feels slightly underpowered, especially in a V60 cross-country that I had a couple months ago. Fuel economy is the reason why Volvo switched, of course, to this twin-charge engine. It's rated at 25 in the city, 31 on the highway. This is rated to get 25 combined. Premium gas, of course, is required because this is a very complicated powertrain setup. Now, as this car sits with the all-wheel drive system in the T6, it weighs around just under 4,000 pounds, but you should be getting to 60 in the mid 5-second range. Just don't expect any kind of nice noises that you used to get in the previous 6-cylinder Volvos. So last year I had the opportunity to drive the S60 twice, and both of them were R-Design models, which were the sport-oriented trim lines. This is the first time that Volvo is loaning me an inscription trim level, and I have to say I'm sitting here in the driver's seat getting a massage, which feels incredible. It's probably one of the reasons why I would personally pick this thing, because I love having massaging seats, especially at this price point. It's a little bit harder. It's actually a lot harder to find this in this segment, as I said multiple times. Now, if you're an enthusiast looking for an all-out sports sedan, the Volvo S60 is not the one that you'd want. Even the Polestar engineering model is very much not a sports sedan. Sure, it's got the OLED dampers, adjustable dampers, it's got the sports suspension, it looks fantastic. But it's such a passionless driving vehicle when you talk about the powertrain compared to the S4, the M340i, the Genesis G70, the Kia Stinger GT, the Mercedes-AMG C43. It just doesn't have the firepower of that vehicle, and neither does this inscription model. However, what the S60 does incredibly well is just being a comfortable luxury sedan. I have it in comfort mode right now. I'm just cruising along, you know, just like I'm commuting to and from work or going to do my errands. It's got a very, very nice ride quality. I'd say that this is probably the most comfortable ride in the segment. So if you're looking for that, the Volvo is the one that you want to go for. It's got a really supremely quiet interior. It's got seats that are just so comfortable. They're so soft and supportive. They offer so many different levels of adjustability. The steering in this car is electric, obviously, and it actually isn't that bad. It has a pretty good amount of precision and feel. You have excellent visibility in this thing. I can see out of it from the front, from the rear, from the sides. You've got the Volvo driver assistance. Now, my tester does have an advanced package for $2,500, which throws in the pilot assist in this car, which the pilot assist allows the S60 to maintain speed in its lane. It'll follow the car in front of you to a full stop, and it'll also assist you in stop and go traffic. So it's nice. However, it doesn't change lanes for you. It doesn't suggest lane change and whatnot like a Tesla on autopilot. So the pilot assist is great, but I think it's time for Volvo to really step it up. They are typically known for being at the forefront of safety and technology, and it now feels like they're starting to slip behind in that regard. And when we talk about the powertrain, this T6 powertrain offers 316 horsepower. It is the mid-level offering. It slots between something like an Audi A4 and an S4. So it's a very unique powertrain, very typical of Volvo. The problem with this powertrain is the sound. I mean, yes, it offers plenty of low-end torque. This thing never feels sluggish to me. It has a responsive 8-speed auto, which goes about its business just fine. It's not, you know, the sportiest transmission. It doesn't even have any paddles on the wheel. You've got to go for the R design model to get the paddles. But when you start treating this thing like a sports sedan, which some of its competitors definitely do it much better, I'll put it into dynamic mode over here. Volvo says you'll get to 60 in the mid-5s for this car. It definitely feels like a relatively quick car, but it also doesn't feel much faster than the base engine versions of like a 330i or an Audi A4. Definitely faster than a C300 and faster than a G70 2-liter turbo, obviously. When I plant my foot, it actually has a little bit of a burble on the upshift when you're driving it very aggressively. I wish it had paddles, obviously, but let's see here. Let's try the manual mode. A little bit slow to respond. It also upshifts automatically for you, which is a little annoying. But there's just a weird electronic delay between the supercharger spooling up, the turbocharger spooling up, of course. There's just something about this thing that the delay is a little disappointing, especially in a world that we live in with Teslas and Model 3s and how bloody fast they are, you know, just from a dead stop or whenever you're just looking to pass somebody, because in an internal combustion engine vehicle, you're gonna feel that lag. And because this is a twin charge engine, you feel the lag and the sound just sounds terrible. It just sounds like a vacuum cleaner. Volvo obviously tried to make it sound decent with the burble and the upshift when you're driving it aggressively, but it's just a really disappointing overall feel. And that's what I mean how the Volvo S60 lacks passion. Volvo needs to do something about that to evoke emotion in me in this car. It just feels like a very comfortable, competent luxury sedan that's going to take me to and from work or go on long road trips really easily. But there are times where I just feel bored driving this thing, and that's a problem, especially when you're spending this kind of money. Now this thing is all-wheel drive, so it does get off the line fairly nicely, and the all-wheel drive system really will put the power down nicely as well. I did notice at times it does take a second for it to kind of decide where it's going to send power to which wheel or which, you know, front or rear axle. Again, this is more of a luxury car, less of a sports sedan. And if that's what you're looking for, then that's great, because the Volvo will deliver that. You're going to notice its weaknesses as you start pushing it around some corners, going a little bit faster. And you feel the soft suspension in this thing, but again, you need to go for the R design model to get the firmer suspension, which does affect the ride quality. Now, of course, fuel economy is another issue that people like to, talk about, and the reason why Volvo went to their twin charge engines is because fuel economy got significantly better with this powertrain combination. It's rated at 25-31. In my week's worth of testing, I've been getting around 23 miles to the gallon combined. On the highway, it got 33 mpg. So that's very good numbers, even on premium gas. So obviously, if you're not going to be driving this thing like a sports sedan, it's going to make you happy. But just know that you can find a lot more technology in a Tesla. You can find a lot more sportiness in its German rivals. And those of you who are coming from the older Volvos with their T6, their inline-6 engines, you're going to find this powertrain to be leaving something to be desired. So the previous generation S60 was around for nearly a decade, so when this all-new third generation came out last year, it was a very much needed redesign for a car that really has been dropping significantly in sales numbers. And really, this current generation is one of the best Volvo S60s you're going to buy. In terms of luxury sedan, being a luxury sedan, this is one of the best ones, because remember, if you're looking for a really cushy ride, you want massaging seats, you want something different versus all the German and Japanese offerings that your neighbor has, this car is seriously seriously going to stand out. And I really like the overall design. After spending a week with it, I think the Volvo S60 is one of the most comfortable luxury sedans you can buy. But the problem with it is it lacks passion, it lacks emotion, it lacks the thing that used to make these Swedish cars unique. I mean, sure, you still have the beautifully designed interior that is well built, but in terms of the driving dynamics, it is rather much a mundane vehicle that offers decent acceleration, but isn't going to blow the doors off of anything or put a huge smile on your face, even the R Design or even the Polestar engineering model. So I would like to see Volvo do something about that to make these cars a lot more fun and just evoke more passion into their vehicles. Now, speaking of which, if you guys are looking to buy an S60, what's it going to cost? Well, this is one of the lesser expensive vehicles in the segment. It starts at around $37,000 for the base T5 Momentum with front-wheel drive. This one here, of course, the inscription starts at around $40,000, so couple grand more. The engine, of course, is going to cost you more if you guys want to go for the all-wheel drive system. Once you add all-wheel drive, that's going to tack on roughly around $3,500 for this T6 engine. So my tester here, with a few options on it between the luxury package, the inscription trim level, which adds around $6,800, the advanced package, which adds their driver assistance, their Bowers & Wilkins sound, which is fantastic. I highly recommend that for $3,200. Stickers for a grand total of just over $58,600, which makes this thing pretty expensive. I mean, you could get something like a Tesla Model 3 Performance for that same money, which offers significantly more power. It's all electric. But if you start looking at the German competitors, the Volvo is less expensive. I'm just not entirely sure there's a lot of people out there that's willing to spend nearly $60,000 on just a compact luxury sedan. Remember, you can get something like a Genesis G70 for about 15 grand less. You can also get the Kia Stinger for a lot less. You can also find a mainstream vehicle like a Toyota Camry or Honda Accord, which arguably isn't going to offer the luxury, but you will get pretty close amounts of refinement as long as you're okay with not having, you know, the all-wheel drive capability in some of those more mainstream offerings. Really, I think Volvo needs to do something to find more passion in their vehicles. They just really have lost a lot of that, especially with these new powertrains. So I would like to see what the company's doing. The Polestar brand is what Volvo is saying is going to be the future, where they're really marching into electrification. So we may never have another Volvo vehicle that has kind of that loud exhaust note that we'd like to see, especially from previous Polestar badged vehicles. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 Volvo S60 T6 Inscription. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.